Hey everybody, Eric here, and welcome to another session of Obsessive Audio. I just want to do this one really quick because this morning, Acustica Audio has done it again. They've released a plugin called Silver. This is a reverb plugin. They've gone in, they've sampled all kinds of different acoustical spaces with the Acustica sampling process. So there are studios and churches and hallways, and so let's just pull up their manual real quick here to take a look at what they've done with the Silver, with the APAC. They've gone and they've sampled 77 physical spaces, and they've listed them here. There's a club, 2 clubs, religious, which are the churches, several churches, opera and theater. There's a theater, different studios and scoring stages, public spaces, including conference halls, restaurants. There's a toilet, gym room, gym stairs, locker room, bed and breakfast. There's a lobby, more halls, another big room, a warehouse, domestic, which is rooms in a house, 3 bathrooms, 2 living rooms, mini rooms, stairs, small bedroom, bedroom fireplace, chalet room. You get the idea. A lot of different spaces that they've gone in, sampled with the acoustic technology. Now, if you remember a few months ago, Acustica released a plugin called Sienna, and in that they'd gone to different studios, mastering studios, mixing studios, and they'd sampled the control rooms and speakers there and the sweet spot. And that was more for a mixing studio simulation plugin. But it looks like they've gone and they've applied this technology now to actual recording spaces, the live rooms and the different locations. The layout's very similar to Sienna, so if you have Sienna, it's going to be really familiar to you. I can go through the controls really quickly and we can see how that will work. Let's go up here. You would select your different presets from the drop-down menu. As you can see, as each one comes up, there's the different locations, and each thing has medium, far, and near. So they've sampled each location at 3 different distances to help you fine-tune what you're looking for. There are also large versions in which what they've done in those is they've stretched out the tail, so the tail's quite a bit longer. There are early reflections and also tails. If you go into Guru mode, you can have separate controls of each. The early being in the blue here on the left, and the late being on the right in the red. Let's take away these Guru controls with the Guru switch off. When you load up the plugin, this is what you get. So you would load up your preset up here. We've got a preset storage area here. When you have things you like, you can store it in different locations by hitting the arrow down. You can recall it by putting up the number. There are the direct level, the reverb level, early reflection level, depth, which I believe will increase the stereo spread of the early reflections. There is time. So this is, although this is a sampled plugin based on their technology, it does enable you to increase or decrease the time. That's very cool. And the late level. There are EQ controls here, high pass and low pass filters, low frequency, mid, and high frequency, so you can fine tune it. It's built in right there if you want to darken things up or brighten them up or clean them up. These 2 sliders here are perfection sliders. It looks like they've got one perfection slider for the early reflections and another one for the late tails. And what these do is I believe as you increase them, there's it's their own DSP compensation that helps to linearize the response. It helps to get rid of resonances, essentially. So you may lose some of this original character of the sampling, but you're going to get increased smoothness and a reduction of any kind of ringing or resonance, and more even response in your reverbs. And again, you do get a separate one for the early reflections and a separate one for the late reflections. Let's set this back and around the middle here where it was. Let's just listen to an audio sample dry. Here is some spoken word audio. We can place the voice in various different acoustical environments. And let's turn it on. And in this case, I've got the Sphere Studios FAR, and this is their live room there. Here it is. Here is some spoken word audio. We can place the voice in various different acoustical environments. So that would be the Sphere Studios. Let's load up another one of the studios. Let's go to the Hog main room, which is, I believe, a smaller space. Let's listen to that. Here is some spoken word audio. We can place the voice in various different acoustical environments. And we'll go to, let's do one more studio. Let's check out Phonoprint Studio. Here is some spoken word audio. We can place the voice in various different acoustical environments. So already you get a sense there that there's a realism that I heard to it. There is a liveliness that I heard to it. And let's go back to the plugin and we'll do just different spaces. And let's listen to another sound as well, because I did make a video where that particular voice sample goes on for about 5 minutes, and that's enough to drive anyone crazy. So let's put this in a theater, shall we? Let's go with the FAR. Let's listen to the dry first. Saxophone. Let's turn this on and then we'll play it. I'll also mess with some of the controls. Let's turn up the wet. That's nice. Let's try to make it a bit longer. Now that wet, so now the tail of that reverb just got quite a bit longer. Let's shorten it up. That's really short. Nice. Let's put it back to where it was. Let's listen now to the early reflections. Let's turn the late down a bit. Let's turn the early up. Let's give you the auditory cues there for the early reflections, very important. Let's try it again and we'll play with this depth knob. Let's try that again. Depth all the way up. We'll turn it down. So subtle, but I think it does give you a bit of the widening there. Let's load up another space here. Let's go big. Let's go for one of the churches. And we'll put the late level back up to where it was in the early level. We'll just sort of zero these out here, but we'll keep the reverb up high. So there's an idea of a larger space. Let's go for a small space. Let's go into domestic. Let's do one of the bathrooms. How about that? Let's turn up the early reflections. Whoa. And widen them out. And let's do maybe like a living room or something. Let's try the fireplace room. This is a large version, so this will have a bit of a longer tail. It's pretty long. Let's try to find the regular version. It's pretty natural. Let's turn down the early reflections, and we'll turn the late reflections, or the late tail, up. So I'm just getting a lot of realism out of that. It doesn't sound like my other reverb plugins that I have. I like the fact that there's so much to choose from. I like the fact that you actually could control over it, even though it's a sampled reverb. You can control the time. Let's take a look at the Guru settings on here for a minute. And let's actually zoom in on those. When you hit the Guru button, it takes a second, but then these other controls come up. And you can see here the early reflections, they've now added a pre-delay for the early reflections. And also over here on the late reflections, you also get separate pre-delay control of the late reflections. So that's pretty handy, where you can control those two separately for pre-delay. Let's actually start adding some. Oh, I guess it glitches a bit if you don't. Let's add some pre-delay here. Let's add quite a bit so you can hear what it's doing. So with the pre-delay without it would be, all the way up would be, gives you a bit more size, a bit more separation from the dry signal. Pre-delay is pretty cool in a mix. Let's try the same thing, but with the late reflections. Well, that almost sounds like an echo. Maybe you don't. Yeah, they give you a lot of delay for the late reflections, not so much for the early, but I guess that's realistic. You don't want to delay the early reflections by like 100 milliseconds or whatever, but you might, in a big mix, like go over 100 with the late. Let's leave those settings. I think these settings will stay the same even if you load up a different room. So if you've got this configured for a send, for instance, so there's no direct in it, and then you go to load up something else. Let's load up a club. Yeah, see, that doesn't change, so that's great. And I don't think the other knobs changed either, even in the Guru mode, so that's awesome. So you can go through different rooms. Even though you've got a Guru setting, you can change the room up and look for something that's close to what you want. Let's hear this club. Okay, now that was all reverb. That was no direct signal at all. Let's get a blend happening. Really nice. Let's say, oh, maybe it's a bit boomy. Turn the high pass up. Let's really crank it up. Oh yeah. Let's go through some of the other controls on the Guru mode here really quickly. First, we've got the input trim. That's your standard Acustica audio input trim, your compensated volume, if you were, so you don't hear necessarily a change in volume, but you will hear a change in terms of how the plugin is internally being hit, in terms of harmonics and maybe some of the dynamics as well. Generally, I like to keep it down, but sometimes, you know, turn it up, you get a little bit more effect. Pan, which I presume is a left-right pan. Let's hear that. Let's actually go to another sample so we don't get bored of the saxophone. Left. Yeah, so it takes all the reverb, just puts it left. Right. Yeah, so it looks like a straight up pan. Let's put that back in the middle. Now these two knobs got a little bit confused by it because on the Sienna plugin, one of them has to do with the distance, the stereo distance of the left and the right for the speakers. You could put it to 0 and essentially be giving you mono, or you could spread out the distance, and the other one had to do with the angle of the speakers. But because the manual that they have now, it didn't say anything about these two controls, so don't quote me on this, but I think what this may be is a way to manipulate the distance between the microphones and the angles that the microphones are pointing. But let's play around with them and hear what we get anyway. Here's width. I did hear a difference there when the width was down all the way. It kind of felt like it was more maybe clumped up in the middle, and then it got a little more spacious with it up. Subtle difference. Headphones probably to hear it, or a really good monitoring environment. Let's put it down all the way, listen. We'll turn it up all the way. It's like when it's turned up all the way, I hear less build up in the very middle. And let's play with this other one here, which is the pan. You can go classic or plus 30. Let's hear what it does. Start off with classic. Let's turn it up. Oh yeah. That sounds to me like it started to introduce more time difference between the left and right. It's like a widening, but not like a standard stereo widener where you're taking the out of phase and turning it up. This sounds like it's actually messing with the timing of the signal, increasing the difference of the timing differences between left and right. Let's keep it down all the way and listen for that if you have headphones on. Let's listen to, see if you can hear little discrete reflections, and let's turn up the early reflections too as well. Although this looks like it probably does refer to the late reflections just because it's red. So, well, let's hear it with it down all the way. Now I'm going to play it again with it all the way up. Listen to the stereo field, and I'll just go back and forth. So yeah, those controls, I mean, they're definitely doing something. Probably there's going to be a manual coming out soon that will explain them in more detail, but those are just really fine-tuned, kind of expert ways to handle your stereo imaging. Probably this is the best way to put it, but I would wait for the manual to come out. They could explain it a little further, or just mess around, and if you're hearing the differences, you find something that you like. Let's move on to another sound sample here. Got a snare drum. And we'll turn this on. This is the shelter lobby. Nice and long. What if we wanted to shorten that up? Oh. Let's turn down the reverb. Dry. Bring in the reverb. Not bad. I mean, that's probably about as much as you'd want in a mix. Crank it up, make it long if you wanted. Might want that, might not want that. I think there's one, there's an actual drum room in here, one that said drum room. Let's see, maybe it was under the studios. Hog drum room. Let's try that. Let's kind of get these centered out. Pull down the dry, put up the wet a bit. Just to exaggerate it, I do like to exaggerate the examples so you can hear what things are doing. Here's dry. So let's do it this way. Dry. Bringing it in. Well, that's different. It's pretty lively. Let's hear the early reflections. Definitely gives you some spread. Spring in the late. A little bit ringy there. You hear that ring? Let's see if we can dial in some of that perfection. Not sure if that's doing too much. Let's leave this back in the middle. It might be picking up on the ring and the snare, or maybe it's got its own, I'm not sure, but maybe not so much of that. Without. This is when I start fading it in, how it sort of wraps around the sound in a way that not every reverb does. It really gives that sense of space. And hear how much flatter it's going to get when I take it out. I mean, that room alone is awesome. That's almost worth it right there. Maybe we should try some more of these, more of the exotic spaces here that they have going on. So let's load up one of the theaters here. I've got a different musical example. I noticed I really like what this theater does to kick drums, so let's hear this. I'm going to bring in the reverb. Hear how deep that is? It might be a bit long, but let's shorten that up. Lots of rumble. Playing with a pre-delay here. That's nice. Let's turn down the late. Let's turn up the early, hear what that's doing. Oh, that's nice too. Let's increase the stereo a bit on that. Give it a bit of pre-delay and maybe not that much. It's pretty nice. Let's no reverb. Mostly early reflections. Let's balance a bit more lows in there. Let's take just a tiny bit of low end off, but not too much, because I do like the boom. And let's mess with the stereo on the late reflection, or on the late tails as well. See if we can get some more stereo activity. A bit of bouncing ball here, a bit of fluttering. Oh yeah. And what about the width? That's not bad. Might be more than you would use in a mix, but just sneak it in and hear how it livens up a bit here. Pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, let's do one more. Let's do Warehouse. Got to kind of, I loaded it up. We got to kind of zero it out here. Let's pick even another musical example. Let's keep it dry for now. Why don't we listen to, what's this? Sure, acoustic guitar. Let's bring it in. Really nice. There's also a voice here, so let's do the, let's listen to the voice. Let's go dry.
A blinding star, shining closer beyond from where you think you are.
Let's bring it in.
A blinding star, shining closer beyond from where you think you are.
Some really nice kind of unabashed high in there. You know, not quite as controlled as like a theater or a studio. Really cool. You can go long with it. I think they might even give you a large version if you want more tail.
A blinding star,
Nice and bright.
shining closer beyond from where you think you are.
Which you could affect with the EQ if you wanted to. Let's go a little bit of pre-delay. Let's go wider. Okay, so these were set pretty wide. Let's put some depth on the early reflections. Maybe let's turn up the early reflections and turn the late down and hear what happens.
A blinding star, shining closer beyond from where you think you are.
Let's say, oh, maybe you didn't want it that bright. Well, we got the low pass filter here.
A blinding star, shining closer beyond from where you think you are.
So, tons of flexibility. Just for laughs, let's pick one of the big churches. Let's crank up the time. Let's crank up the stereo. Let's give it tons of pre-delay. Even the early reflections, let's delay those. It's nice and loud. Let's pull it down. And let's bring it in.
A blinding star, shining closer beyond from where you think you are.
Well, we could go on for days about this, but I think you get the idea. And it's Acustica Audio Silver. Those are in the A pack, Volume A. It does come, there's a free version that does come with quite a bit of stuff right off the bat. So I think like four different spaces to choose from in that. But if you want the 77 spaces, that is Volume A. Released today, Acustica Audio. Go check it out. You're going to love it. I love it. And we'll see you next time.